Amen. Thank you, Burton. Okay, if I can focus your attention to the agenda, item number 1, we have the adoption of the agenda, obviously. Number 2, declaration on conflicts of interest. Are there any identified at this point? I see no hands. Moving on to number 3, visitors. Julia's here. Number 4, we'll deal with the chief's report. Number 5, Councilor's portfolio reports. Then moving executive officers report, the number of items. 7, in camera. Number 8, adjournment. Additional last-minute items. They're being circulated? Okay. They should pop up on their agendas or email. And Inez will identify those for you and they pop up on the agenda then.
Oh, you'll probably go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is, this shows it. At least she's in the middle. You can take it off.
open up for discussion, presentation, action, moving forward. Marcia.
I think we as council focus me and to protect Ketchikan all wetlands, fishing, and all non-condemned and all wetlands. Didn't really understand my mind, but people are saying there are so many animals and rare plants and fauna. There's turtles, there's leopard frogs, there's bullfrogs, there's all kinds of life in that marsh, and I just don't see how we can prove to drain it and use it for agriculture. And which brings in another issue, which piggybacks on this, is that we have no idea what kind of chemicals farmers are using in our territory. And we need to do something about that. We need to look at contracting services for people to come and do soil testing of all our lands and get a good picture of what's going on here. Because if we are true to keeping our lands pure and safe for generations, then we have to take action. It's been talked about in the past, and there has been no action taken. I did find a small blurb on the use of Roundup back in 2016 council minutes. That's the only thing that I was aware of, and this was on council minutes of, but it was in 2016. And towards the end of the meeting, when they had dealt with natural gas, a natural gas update, there was discussion, and within the text of that, which was included in the minutes, it says, regarding the protest at the swing bridge, the director of operations has the responsibility to ensure safe passage and maintain good order / behavior. And if necessary, the police are to be involved. The intent is to keep pushing forward. We don't allow fracking. We don't allow Roundup. The process is that they are not here to drill. And that's all I could find. It wasn't a motion, but it spoke to that. Wiccan does not allow Roundup, that product here. So there's a lot of, I think, probably studies, environmental studies, health studies as to the health of this community and the impacts the environment has. And I think we need to really look at everything. But I wanted to put that motion on record that I believe that's the direction we have to go.
Big Wedge, Marcia, additional comments? I guess in terms of the use of Roundup, Waffle Island itself is the biggest, infractor or the biggest abuser of that particular item that you just quoted there, dating from 2016, was it? As we all know, Taganing Enterprises uses Roundup in all of its fields in terms of Roundup ready seed, et cetera, like that, because that is the way to go. There's other products out there, but they're perhaps not as effective as Roundup. So if we send that signal, it means that we have to stop the use of Roundup by Taganing Enterprises and any other farmer that's on Waffle Island, which is a very significant signal, and it may cause some concern by the Band Farms operation. It's the biggest operator on the Waffle Island, and as well as others. And we'll have to balance that, I guess, in terms of how we approach that. Like mentioned, it's not a motion; it's a note, I guess, in the minutes.
It's a draft.
A draft. The draft at the time, but it was not a motion.
Correct.
Not a minute to a council meeting, rather. So, I guess there's a lot of issues at play here, and I guess we'll have to address all of them. But we just can't do this piecemeal. Valerie, then Cody. Oh, Cody, example. Okay, Cody.
Yeah, I was just going to address the substantial concern. I truly believe our speaker is 100% correct. We do need to protect our wetlands. 75% of the Great Lakes filtering system is our market. And this proposal proposed to take 90% away from one of our marshes. This is going to destroy not only parts of Walpole, but farther on down the trough, and it could be devastating to our Great Lakes system. We are the filter. Not only that, we have migratory birds that utilize our marsh, our habitat. This proposal that was thrown at us like a curveball, we're blindsided by it. It shouldn't even be involved destroying our lands, poisoning them, and then handing over business to farmers that want to pay next to nothing for a 10-year lease. That's outrageous. So I'm concerned. As a council, we have to start acting like a council. This is our meeting. We're getting pushed around still. So we have to start being a more firm hand for our community. It doesn't involve what's happening today. It involves what's happening for our future. As a hunter, tell you first off that draining the water out of there, turning that into cornfield isn't going to benefit our wetlands. It's going to suck the ducks over there, and then the mainland's going to get more action than we ever had, because we haven't had a sanctuary that's operational in over 25 years. We have to start looking at our own ways to keep our ducks here and our conservation going, even tell our farmers to quit flipping fields over. Our whole migratory path has changed over the years that I've been hunting, and it's not benefiting us. It's benefiting those guys on the mainland. You wonder why the duck hunting is depleting over here? It's because of that. I've argued with farmers over the years, politicians, to try to make some change. And I got nowhere. This is our time. We are allowing this to happen. As a council, we need to stand firm and look at our future generations to come. And if we can't do that, then And I think the wrong people are here. We have to start looking at our business. Our ancestors, our youth, our elders. Not business, dollars. There's other ways to make money. We can start looking off down to make money. Start farming out there. We can buy different businesses, restaurants, bars, stuff like that. That's an apartment, 40,000. We could have for employment with that. We could get into the real estate business, flip houses. Send kids to school to be plumbers, electricians, contractors. Buy cheap property and flip it and make millions and bring that revenue back to the island. We don't have to jeopardize our wetlands. Thank you.
What's Cody, Val?
I don't know much about farming. I know there's farmers that farm wild. I don't know anything about I want poison myself. Right off the bat. So I know that chemicals seep into, I don't know what type of. Within our teaching to help that we have a place here. Put everything else for a reason, so that we would be taking all of those things that are closer to our us. We should be looking at responsibility. That was put here before us. So we really need to open our eyes. When they do start telling us, and I'm so happy that, this young lady spoke to us, because they are the future. They're going to be sitting here in 10 years making decisions. We need to start listening. We need to start going back to those teachings that were given to us and start living our lives that way. Because that's the way the Creator wanted us to live that good life. We want to win that good life. So we have to get serious about this. And I know that Taganing, and I don't know what Roundup is, so I know it's probably some type of fertilizer, but we need to let them know that we're not happy with the way that they're farming. And again, money, I know it makes us money. But again, what's more important? The future of our children? Or if we all get poisoned, or they get poisoned, or grandchildren? Like, what's more important? I think we have to start thinking about what it is that we're here to do, who we're here to listen to, and to try to make the best decisions that we can, not for ourselves, but for the future. Because, like, I don't want to see my grandchildren, growing up in a community that has basically nothing as being poisoned. Not my grandbabies, or not my, now I have great grandchildren. I don't want to see them, in that type of situation. So I think we really need to think hard about anything that comes to this table. And that we start thinking about it and taking our proper place in this community as leadership to make good decisions and start thinking about the future of our young people.
Good question, Valerie. Tyler.
When this exploded from there, I got a lot of inboxes, a lot of concerned people asking about what it was and everything else. Unfortunately, that day I was on Zoom, and well, we all know how that goes. I was trying to listen the best that I could. There was a lot of things that I missed. And when it came down to the end of it, to my understanding was there was gonna be more discussion about it. And then it would have been then turned to the community without any action. That's my understanding, because that's the way I feel like it should have been anyway. The one thing that I want to stress is that we, as a council, need to listen to community members, their voices and opinions. Because I also had a few, not very many, who said, oh, I don't really, because I started to reach out, and they said, oh, I don't really care. And then I had a couple that say, the Phragmites are getting worse, what else are we gonna do? There's been lots of choices, right? And I think it's important that we listen to everyone, but at the same time, ultimately a decision this huge would be made by the community. We're just here to listen to the ideas, gather the information, make sure that it's understandable for everybody, and then present it to the community. And then thinking about it, when I talked to those people, a lot of people had a lot of great ideas about natural remedies, ways to fight it with other plants. And I thought, and I asked a couple online, I was like, oh, it's like, you know, can you tell me more? And then they said, oh, it's an idea, well, you should talk to this person and so and so. And I was like, oh, okay. But we should make sure that we listen to everyone and their ideas, because there's a lot of people, like the community is strong, and we have to make sure that we pay attention to not people that we believe are right, because I can sit here and I know that I can probably disagree with every single person in here around one or two things, but that doesn't mean that I should shut them out. It doesn't mean that I should dismiss what they want to say. Like bringing Julia here today was brilliant. Like it was, and I thank you for it. I think, like, I can't imagine how much strength it takes to stand in front of council. I can't even think of, like, before I got here, I wouldn't even think of trying to do that because it seems very intimidating. So I thank you for that. And it really did open up my eyes that there's a lot of values and beliefs when it comes to our land. And we are land people. We live off this land. We have to value this land because ultimately this land doesn't belong to us. It's going to go to our next generations, and then it's going to go to their generations. And long after we're gone as human beings, the land is still going to be here. And we need to make sure and ensure that we are protecting it for at least our 7 generations. Because I believe in that 7 generation principle, that what we do here today cannot be changed for 7 generations. Residential schools, we're at the beginning of this, right? And trying to turn those around. Same thing. Our land, our beliefs, our values, it's just a start. And we need to make sure that we listen to the community. And I just wanted to put that out there that we should listen. You what?
Big what, Tyler? Additional comments? Keenan?
Yeah, ever since the explosion on Facebook, I've talked to more people like that. Some inbox we had also came to see the university. And I've seen both sides of the fence and on the fence. So there's one family in particular that have a fair amount of farmland. All they kept telling me was they have zero interest in growing weeds. So meaning that the use of Roundup on their land was okay to them. So yeah, I actually ended up kind of in a quandary about that, but I never thought about that. It's not that simple out here. We have PCs here. Right, so my next question that came to my mind, okay, so what, how far is council's reach before individual landowners get mad at you? Because it's their land, right? So I started to think about those things. Thought about the farmers. I know I was the president for the Ghani for about 8 years, 9 years. So this was pretty much an annual issue. For what's Ghani use, they do use Roundup, but they use the bare minimum. And that's why you see weeds coming up and something in the middle of these fields. That's what that happens. So, like I said, people get upset about that. You're kind of debating. The other thing we haven't talked about here yet either is insecticides. On using the mainland farm, and that stuff is more harsh. So, in saying that, my personal feeling about all of this, I just have the facts in front of me. So I fish assessments, there's been amphibians done, there's been plants done. There's data that exists for that particular wetland. Same with Swan Lake. Every one of these marshes have that done. So one of the questions that I have, and I'm wondering why we're not seeing that kind of data. This isn't the first time for this table. I've been a long time ago, probably 10 or 12 years ago, where we had the green slime show up at all the farmers' pumps where they were pumping into the public marshes. Right? Investigations, that there was assessments done then. I don't know where that data ever went. And there was never any recommendations that came out of that. The problem is that we generate information, we don't utilize it. My personal preference, that's what I need in front of me. And then, like Tyler has mentioned, and I mentioned this in the meeting before, was because we're talking about a very big chunk of land, and this community should have the same. That's why I was saying a community referendum, something like this, or any project in the future. We've done that in the past, so we had community referendum. So why not now? That's why I question why are we starting policy, because I didn't like that. We're doing something too direct without enough information. This ain't against anybody. It's just that this is my feelings. This is kind of what I debate. I've been in a lot of research projects out here. There are some significant things, including at St. Anne's. One of the biggest groves of water lotuses grows right in St. Anne's Bay. Right? And I've taken people out in this community that have lived here for 50, 60 years, never knew who was there. So in all fairness, in pushing the vote forward, right, there's people on this island that don't know what's there. So I think all those considerations need to be put on the table. So I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no, I'm not saying shut down the farmers. We talk about alternatives. What are those alternatives? Right? And at what cost? So I know for organic farming, you can farm a particular area only for so long, and then you gotta leave it. Let it lay idle, and then you can farm it again. So these are all questions that I want answers to. I want that information. And I think it would be good to put that in the hands of the community, educate people, let them know what's there. Right? Just be open, be honest, and let the chips fall where they may. Be good.
Okay, I got, I don't know who was first of, Ron, we'll go to Lee.
Sure. Like a young lady came up and explained some things about myself since I was a kid. Moved here back in the late early 70s, I should say. I grew up with Bradley, so I was a years. And I hunted and fished there as a little kid. And introduced to hunting at a very young age, hunting St. Anne's in the cornfields. And hunting in marshes, Walpole marshes, which used to be called Two Trees. There's a lot of history involved in those areas. And hunted on Walpole marshes around bush and other places, and there was sanctuaries here. They weren't hunting, there was tens of thousands of birds, hundreds of thousands. And I was told my dad, because my dad managed rabbit farm, which is now big shears or whatever. You take corn cobs, tractor fulls, wagon fulls, and feed sanctuaries. There was 3 or 4 sanctuaries. So myself, I can consider the 4th generation hunter and fisherman. Because my great grandfather would have built Sony's a hunter and fisherman and a guide. Well, as well as my grandfather was. And not only hunted and fished here, they also hunted, fished in Lake Erie, and so my grandfather in north of that was James Bay, that's in the area. He's a guy. So I kind of know a little bit about hunting. I know a little bit about farming, and everything that Keenan has said is true. I don't know if we turn that up, if that will go back. I know we have stuff, seeds and other things here, other aquatic animals, stuff that will come. But as Keenan pointed out, the marshes have been tight for a number of years. And that was the benefit of the hunters, so they could get to their ponds. They wouldn't have to walk or do all of that stuff, keep the water up when the water's gonna go low. So it doesn't really filter the water anymore. It's all enclosed on the marshes, which is a detriment to the marsh. It's not helping the marshes. There were studies done on those. They need to breathe, and they need to have that fresh flowing water too. Some disagree with that as well. So you're in an impasse with hunters or other people that use those marshes for that. So we constantly come to different issues at different times around this table in March. But I think we do need to have more information. I think we need to have more facts. And we do need to preserve what we do have. The marshes still have some life in them. But it depends on which way we go. I've spoken at this table a number of times to revitalize our marsh. Marsh is fertile. And we've been given directions to our unit at different times, but it hasn't happened. I suggest that the co-op, we take it on and we have a marsh manager. And we do it ourselves instead of leasing it out to big hunters or whoever it is. But it hasn't done that. So it could have been an economic thing. Not only hunting or fishing, but it could have been an ecotourism type of thing where people come and do to see wildlife and other things. That hasn't happened. I heard about all this stuff on Facebook, and I have Facebook. And I don't try to get into the arguments because it'll be there all night. I have things I have to do. But that being said, as I hear people and I understand, and we have something here that's nowhere else, and we have to take care of what we have left. And I too need to have more information to make a good, better decision. I knew Chicano use some Roundup, and I knew other farmers do. I knew they use insecticides to a certain extent because they can't get rid of it any other way because they come from other areas. That being said, it's not a good thing. Anyways, that's all I have to say. And Which.
Jimmy Which. Lee.
Okay, when we received the presentation about St. Anne's, I thought to myself, why now? You know what I mean? Why are we so interested in killing Fred Marty's out on St. Anne's now? It's my own personal opinion. I thought it almost seems like this Fred Marty presentation is sugarcoating a duck hunt proposal, duck hunt club proposal. See, right now, we don't even know if that Fred Marty plan is gonna work. Are we gonna do all that and destroy what we have right now? Just to find this maybe it'll work. Like I said before, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna consider doing this to St. Anne's. it better happen to every single marsh on Squirrel Island, on the island. I mean, I can't see how we can go ahead and take the presentation of 2 or 3 people against everybody on the island that uses these marshes. We all know how bad these things are. I battle them all the time. You know, and like I said, I can't see, I would not even consider this, like I said, this is my personal opinion. I don't need to see stats and how Roundup and stuff works. It's bad. That's what it is. And like, I can't, and you said, kids, future generations. I have 10 grandbabies. I'd like to be able to take them when they go there. I'd like to be able to take them anywhere without having to say, oh, well, we may not be able to go there because they sprayed this here. Or, kids, this used to be a marsh, but now it's corn. I think we need to take the reins on what we're doing with our farming practices. Are we gonna still plant corn and beans for the next 30 years? Have we considered greenhouses? Have we stepped it up in that form? Like I said, and like what Cody said, the farmers killing up the fields. I mean, can we tell them that that's not allowed anymore? I mean, I remember having these fields back here, not tilled when I was 10, when I was 11, and the ducks were everywhere. I don't think that tearing up that marsh, putting those ponds in, is gonna attract all the ducks back to the island. That's one side of the island. I mean, you think about everything where everybody hunts. Like I said, if you plan on doing that to one, it better happen at Walkville Marsh. It better happen at Bush Marsh. And I honestly think that chemicals, insecticide, it's not the answer. Like I said, if you guys take the time to go there, and I know the guys here who do, and some of you maybe not, but you go up there and see what's out there. You might change your mind. Because I'd hate to see that destroyed. Like I said, I don't see how we could even consider it. I see it as a plan that might not work. And to me, like I said, I think it's just it's a duck hunt of rainbow proposal. Like I said, why not? This whole place is covered in fragments. Because someone steps up and just go, oh, yeah, let's go take care of the fragments on St. Anne's. So we can have a run club, basically, my opinion. Thanks.
McWitch, Lyle?
What I'm hearing, there's a lot of issues that got to be resolved. And I have supported putting a marsh committee in process to deal with all of those. What I'm hearing, a lot of good issues being brought forward. There's a lot of problems with fragmity all over the place. You can't solve it in one marsh. Roundup, I understand the kind does use some Roundup, not literally, but they really control where they use it. I still think, and I've sat on the board now for a while, the county does use best farm practices. They try to rotate crops. There's a lot of things I don't know about farming, but I understand when it's brought to the table and brought out. The board does consider all those issues, and they do try to follow the best practices for the land. We don't abuse the land. We don't cut trees down. We drain it properly, and they tile it, do everything you need to do with the land that they cultivate. I think that in the St. Anne's proposal, the land that we're talking about is owned by the band, correct? No individual owns any of that property. So that decision, because of where I sit, I have an authority vote, I guess. So what I've been hearing, I've had people come to my house three different times, 3 different groups of people. I've had phone calls there because I've hunted a lot, and people know I do that, have done that. So they've asked me what's going on, and they thought council made a decision. I told them there's no council decision yet. It's still going to be discussed and brought out at the next council meeting. That may be why we've heard a good speaker today. I agree with a lot of what I heard. We need to follow best practices in the marsh. If we had a marsh committee to do a lot of these issues, like the water is stagnant in all those marshes. It's not free flowing. It is a filter. It is meant to be a filter, but it's not a filter because it's all diked in. If those marshes were properly managed, they would be a filter. They would be the best filter. The only filter we got right now is probably Shimatani. It's open, the marshlands are open here and there, so. I like fishing in the Shimatani. The fish is good and clean. There's a lot of people that still harvest on the St. Anne's Marsh. They still do a lot of duck hunting over there. They still do a lot of trapping and stuff, despite what the cost of under the adult base right now. But there's still people that do that. And if we bring in and let someone come in there with insecticides and Roundup and all the chemicals that are used, they affect the wildlife that lives there. I was watching a documentary not that long ago where insecticides affect the bird reproduction. You don't hear any more bob whites in the morning. You don't see any quail running around, pheasants don't run around because the eggs are not strong enough to hold in this area because of all the insecticides that's used in farmland spraying. So we have a marsh, we have a whole marsh system out there, and it's been there for, I remember water. We got it because we left it alone. We took care of it over the years, and I think we can't stop taking care of it. I think it's our, if I have a vote, I'm going to vote that this proposal is not fit for this time. I don't think we should be looking at any kind of draining any marsh or expanding the Taconic farm. I do think that we need to rebuild that dike over there. And I have another idea, but I'll share that another time. So at this point in time, I propose the project is not a feasible option. A lot of the band members have backed me up on that.
Which, Burton,
Yeah, I agree. This is a tip of the iceberg in relation to the well-being of our territory. The 10,000 acres that we have for hunt clubs, we have 5 hunt clubs, approximately 2,000 acres per club. And to accommodate the hunt clubs, which are essentially private enterprises, then for some reason we allow diking of that marshland, which undermines the natural flow of water, obviously. And so right now we have no hunt clubs anyway. Why not just let the water flow freely? So that settles that issue. But I still think that should be taken to the community as well. Now our farming, again, is another animal. We dike through the mainland of our territory to accommodate farming. And it took away from the free flow of water through the reserve, so to speak. And so that was to accommodate farming. So we have Tagani that farms around 4,000 acres, and with the other farmers in the community. So potentially we're farming about 5,000 acres of the mainland in the reserve, with a potential of 10,000 acres to be farmed if it was all farmed without touching the wetlands or the marshes. So, but the diking has again been the issue that we've allowed to come into play to accommodate the farmers. And the CP issue is another animal, again, another issue. We're one of the few reserves in Canada that has certificates of possession. If you go farther west, they have no CPs. The land is controlled by the council of the day, if you will. The CPs came into play in this part of the country to accommodate the St. Lawrence Seaway. So the federal government could co-opt our members with those CPs so that the Seaway could come through. But here we had 2 referendums, as you recall, in the late 50s to approve the Seaway. We didn't approve it. The federal government forced it with the second referendum. So they've cut through our wetlands again without our permission. So that's the challenge of the system that we have right now, the elected system through the Indian Act. I agree fully that any of these major issues should go beyond this table. We should take it back to the community. So we have all those major issues to address with the community. Do we remove the dikes?
which will impact the farming. And I agree with the issue of chemicals on our land. I don't think it's a win-win whatsoever. It accommodates the farmer and it's a profit thing. So we really don't have any individual family farmers anymore in the community. And Taganing is our enterprise, however, I'm hearing, and I suspected that anyway, with chemicals. So right now, those are the issues that have to be taken back to the community. The number one is the diking throughout our whole territory. Does the community want that? Yeah, which stops the free flow of water through the mainland and the reservation, also through the wetlands. So I suspect those, because I've heard this for years. What are we doing with these dikes? Why do we have the dikes? You know, so that's one issue beyond this table, even though it's been approved through this table. We really do have to have a good process where we hear from the community whether they want to proceed with status quo, dikes, and all this kind of stuff. Or you don't eliminate one dike, you eliminate the whole works. In my estimation, they all have to go. So I think it impacts the farming, but it also benefits the free flow of the water through the marshes and through the territory. So that's something I'm quite interested in, going back to that place. Anyway.
Okay, I think you make some very interesting points. And by my comment as well, I guess, in terms of exactly on your comments, Burton, that we have to look at controls and other instruments, I guess. I know that there was a council motion in the past that had something to do with the control of fall plowing, not only by Taganing Enterprises, but by the officer of farmers as well. And it's surprising that if you research the minutes, you'll see that there's at times when there's approaches to the council and they turn that around, they allow for that, which makes you question, I guess, the intent and I guess the impact of that type of resolution. And speaking of the enforcement through the leases there, I think it's all controlled, potentially controlled by a couple of things. A couple of things have to happen first. One, we need some type of up-to-date environmental assessment on all our wetlands, some current information so that we can establish some baseline data on our marshes. Keenan had mentioned some existing data is there, but it's probably dated to around 2016 or so, and perhaps needs extensive updating in terms of the impact that the Phragmites has in our wetlands. If you take a look at aerial shots of our marshes, there's just heavy infestations in them, and something has to be done. And we're hearing that it can't be done with chemicals and other means, so we're going to have to explore some options on that. So we're going to have to listen to the people, as Burton has suggested, but we're also going to have to look at methodology that addresses the removal and control of that particular infestation within our wetlands, because it's not going to go away by itself. And with all of that, I think that we have to look at some type of development of an internal environmental law that triggers and controls all these things, whether it's the fall plowing or the various aspects within leases there, that is enforced by the band council to protect those wetlands and the flora and fauna, and to ensure that that's there for 7 generations down the road. If we want to look at protecting our lands, then we have to look at the establishment of law. And it's going to take an environmental law by this council, supported by the people to do that. So that's the direction I think that we need. And I think that's going to be a big task, I guess, for the Marsh Committee and perhaps the one dealing with law, I guess, to address that. And that should be, 2 things should be presented to the people. Some updated information or an environmental assessment on our marshlands, what's there, what's not there, what's gone astray there. I understand that the soft-shell turtle has just about disappeared now. And if you look at the habitat of our marshes, it's so thick that and bad it is, and that's how it is in all of our wetlands. So to think that this is a current issue, no, it's been an issue here since at least 40 years with the ballast cleaning of the freighters that come from overseas. And it's been here, and it's spread to other parts of Ontario. And if we are going to address it, control it, and look at protecting the future, then I believe that we have to formulate an environmental law that does all those protections for us, because that's going to be key, is enforcement. If there's people infringing upon that, whether it's off-reserve interests, off-reserve farmers, then we have a mechanism there that will stand today in a court of law that will support us to add those protections. That's a suggestion, and I would hope that it's given some type of consideration in terms of a structured approach to address that concern for the future. Cody.
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everybody that poison is not the answer. We can see it firsthand with what that particular poison can do and has done. As we all know, pig shooter's marsh was sprayed. How long did it take for the Phragmites to come back? Are we gonna allow spraying to continue and poison and poison? That's what's gonna take to, if these people believe that poison is the answer. It's not. There's a lot of natural ways to work with things. I know this from experience in school and college. I took horticulture. Poisoning is poisoning the earth. That's probably a main reason why a lot of the soft shells depleted, because this poison is coming all over the place. It's seeping into our marshes. So I just want to let everybody know that we dealt with this before. I believe it was sprayed during a protest against it. So we have to keep our socks up here, and as a council, work with our community and do what's best for them and the generations to come. Poison is not the answer. Miigwech.
Any other comments? Elaine.
I just want to say a big miigwech to Julia for coming and making that presentation to Chief and Council. And there's a lot of things for us to consider, but the bottom line is it profit over health? Is that what we're looking at? And we have to think of the best interest of our community and our future community, our children. And I just want to thank everyone for all their input, because I really don't know that much about farming. I seen a big tanker today at a field near the band office. It was a semi with a big silver tank. And I'm thinking, what are they pumping into our community? What are they pumping into the land? What are we breathing in? What is it seeping into the marsh area? I had a lot of questions, and we have to be protectors. We have to protect not only the environment, but our people. I just want to say miigwech.
Thank you, Elaine. final round for comments. Keenan?
Just a question for James. I know that there was at one point a land use report developed. I'm not sure if you were a part of that. But it was looking at kind of the needs of the community and then what the current stats were. So if I recall right, it was something like 11,000 acres of farmland here. And they had so much, something like 8,000 or 9,000 in Old Savannah. They had a certain amount for resident, commercial. I'm just wondering if that was ever utilized.
I think there was a land use study that came up with those figures. It would have been around 2005. And I remember that was used for some economic development backgrounders. And I haven't seen, I never saw the actual study. I just saw the backgrounders that were made from it.
I think there was a number of recommendations, but I think that would be, if that could be filed, that would be something good for chief council to review.
I think I recall a bit of it. The part of it, I think there was two components to it. One was a sort of an economic development assessment, I guess, on potential land use, and was driven towards or trying to point the band in the direction of land use policy or zoning. And once that word zoning hit the council table, it was a non-starter. We didn't want to engage in a topic that addressed municipal style zoning on where you could build, and you needed to get a permit or a license even to add an addition to your house, or restricting a person that holds a CP on how they can use their land. And that was a non-starter with a lot of people. Ron?
Yes, just hearing what you're saying, I know last round we were gave some information about some things I said, or whatever, but I think on our own. Exactly what you're saying, no, I know the previous council is selling our lands. And the other one is kind of foul language, because I said right in, and see how I want to say.
Yeah.
Land Management Act. And those conversations, he's had some success, but I think if we're thinking about anything like that, we have to take a look at it and see what the benefits and what the pros and cons are. I know Nipissing and Alberta, some Alberta tribes, and other things have done that. They're equal to a heritage type of center, where staff is really big compared to ours now. And they have some and revitalize some of the marsh or other lands as well. So it could be something to look at or something else, but not necessarily we don't have to follow theirs to remember the law. Something like it and grant it ourselves.
Right. Development laws. Yeah. Okay, I've heard a lot of opinions from around the table. I'm going to present this question, I guess, of this council prepared to entertain the further discussion or consideration for the proposal that was presented at our last meeting. If not, I would entertain a motion that it be dismissed, I guess, from any further consideration by council until such time as that we have proper environmental assessments on our wetlands, and a major report or study is tabled with this council for future consideration, and that we all to develop an environmental law for the consideration by this council to incorporate all those concerns that have been expressed tonight, and further that there would be consultation with the community for additional input into construction of such law. Can I have a mover? Plenty of hands. Moved by Marcia, second by Lee. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I want to have a motion to acknowledge Julia's presentation to council. I should have did that from the start. I apologize for that. Moved by Keenan, second by Tyler. All those in favor of that? That is carried.
5 minutes.
Carried. Time out. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
stream again. Okay, getting back to our agenda, we now have we will go to the chief's report. And we do have feedback and a structure proposed composition for our new committee structure. And it's on your screens. And I'll quickly go through it. Under the new committee name, it's identified as the administrative operations, and that will address financial management, human resources, and the various policies and structures to address those issues. That will be led by Marcia, and her partner on that activity will be Brianne. Number 2, we're looking at community infrastructure, which covers a wide range of activities and departments. It'll include capital planning, lands, and public works. It'll include the sports complex and the management of the sports complex and its operations. It'll oversee the housing operations, as well as the natural resources and marsh management. That's getting to Lyle and Cody's concern and Keenan's in terms of being the marsh committee. As well, it'll have oversight on the operations and looking at recommendations generated from and with economic development. We now have number 3, justice and governance. This will deal with land claims and rights, the ban rep program, our involvement with the court systems and the development of our own courts. That will be led by Valerie, and Neva will assist her with that. Moving down to community well-being and lifelong services. This will include oversight and responsibility for social services and family services. It'll also include education, library, schools, language and culture, as well as the health services and programming, in addition to youth and recreation. That'll be guided by Elaine and assisted by Tyler. Under the next one, we have Homeland Security, which includes the development and review of bylaws and restructuring of that, and hopefully moving more towards a law structure. That'll include oversight with the police and fire departments, and that'll be covered off by and led by Ron and assisted by Lee Jacobs. Number 6, Intergovernmental Affairs. This will be concerning revenue generation and reaching out to various funding agencies and governments to lobby them for additional resources to support our governmental activities and development. It'll also provide oversight on the Heritage Center and the various negotiations and projects that are happening there, as well as the whole issue dealing with nation building and sovereignty building. And that will be guided by Burton and assisted by Keenan. Those are the proposed committee structures and committees for your consideration. Questions on it? Lee?
These are set in stone, right? I asked Alicia before, like I said, I don't want to look wrong. But I have years experience dealing with kids out here. I wanted to be on community well-being. Pertains to education, schools, language, that's the youth and recreation. That's where my heart lies right there, so. If I could switch, I would like to.
James, any suggestions here? I don't have any problems with the desire for a switch there. I know that.
Well, I do have a comment. Because the one thing I noticed, and I'll take full responsibility if I think I made a mistake.
Okay.
It's not a straight pairing of
A senior and
senior and a junior.
yeah.
Same with Tyler and me.
So maybe, I don't know if you want to comment on the current, we could collect your comments now and sort of not here all night on this one.
Everybody wants to jump around and switch. Neva?
So these are interim committees. And so on a committee, we normally would have 5. So we have 2. My understanding was we were going to have 4
Certainly, we can accommodate that, yeah. It spreads out the, I guess, the activities and responsibilities a lot more. And I do recall that there was mention of 4, and that the program head or the various program heads, whoever's meeting at the time, would almost act like a 5th member of the committee itself there. So, James?
I guess one middle ground solution to that comment, if we made these committees of 3 with a senior in each one,
Okay,
it would be easier probably at this time
I see.
to choose one, so all 3 have a senior. But then that would allow city, for example, to have a seated community hall.
Now, Alicia, clear my understanding here. This is based on the feedback, I guess, from the council members themselves, I guess, in terms of their preference and their second choice, these arrangements?
Yes, there are top 3 choices.
Top 3 choices, okay. James, did you have another comment there? If not, I'll move down to Ron.
You have a problem with that motion?
I was gonna say, when I saw the list, the first draft agenda, I saw the names, I was like, my first choice was land things, and I said I do please see, but I also want to be part of the bids. Again, have some consistency. And I thought that able to swing those, part of other things, but those are still some of the things that I'd like to be part of it, some slant or some solutions to be more focused this way. I mean, not that I want a whole bunch either. Those are a lot of work in themselves. Way for anybody else, but it's just like those were my preferences to be on those as well, because having that corporate history of being involved with this for a while is important to me, so that we don't get lost in the shuffle.
Comment now?
I think just generally speaking, it was a direction from council at the meeting where we formulated this to have 2 go to committee. The idea being that would allow us to move more quickly with the councilor who's going to be more engaged with the day-to-day operations. So you have 3 more administrative committees that have a very large umbrella, but it allows us to move more quickly, to have a council person that can act as that spokesperson for council and expert on those issues. And then you have 3 that are more on the political. So it does dilute it a little bit when you're getting to 3 or 4 in this system, just with COVID, because we have so much difficulty coordinating meetings. But it does look like we need to make some tweaks to this.
Elaine?
There's only 4 senior members on council, so how do you scatter them out? Because when I look at community well-being and lifelong services, it's Tyler and I, and we're both new. I don't know how you did that. And when I first seen this, it was, I felt all right because it was myself and Neva. And Neva's been on council before. And it changed, so.
Must have spent too much time looking at this, and I was working with Alicia. Yeah, number 6, you have 2 senior counselors paired up together.
Yep.
And number 3, you have 2 senior counselors paired up together. So there are 6 seniors. It does work.
Oh, 6.
Yeah.
6. Who are the 6?
Burton sat on council before, though.
He was the chief.
Are you calling me old?
Oh,
You're our elder.
Strike that from the record.
There's 5.
Yeah. Okay, we got to get these committees gelled at some point here.
There's 5.
You want one last crack at it and,
Well, if Alicia can give you the working document, maybe we can table this for now and bring it back later.
well, yeah, I know that when you initially tabled it with me, that was my impression too. You got seniors, veterans that were veterans that were teamed together, and the talent wasn't really, and experience wasn't really, experienced counselors weren't, experienced politicians weren't spread out across the board. They're more ably, I guess. So, okay, at our next meeting, you will come back. Doggone, I would still like to get some people to work here, you know, in terms of getting some things done here.
If I had the, do you have the list handy with the choice?
Well, with all their choices, not that one, that one's at the office.
We can tell you all our choices right here.
We have the list already.
Okay.
Tonight.
Yeah, let's do it then. All right. So there's not too much problem with number one, Marcia?
I was just gonna say if James is tweaking or whoever's tweaking it, that doesn't sound right. But anyway, are we gonna have like a general
I just got it.
terms of reference, like who are, for Bree and I, like who are we working with and what are we doing? And at what point do we start getting community members? Or is that even on the table to get community members for some of these, the new committees or whatever we're gonna call this?
Yep.
So, yeah, we can develop some terms of reference so that at a minimum you have things like the staff person that's responsible for calling meetings. So
Yes.
that doesn't get clogged up. You know, in terms of what this is meant to do, the difficulty right now in having members of the public as community members, because it seems somewhat feasible today, it may not tomorrow. That's how it's been with COVID. And with changing
Oh, okay.
restrictions. So I guess the answer is, you know, we're looking at more widespread vaccination and more opening up, and then we'd be in a better position. Right? I think to do it right away, it would slow things down.
Yep, the infestation is still heavy out there. Yeah. Cody?
Yeah, just a question and clarification. So we are gonna have band members involved in our committee, since I'm concerned that I want my community involved in decision making. Are we doing that? Or is,
We're not saying no. So this was an interim measure while we're in the pandemic, and it's very difficult.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm vaccinated and I have no problem meeting with committees. I want to involve my community and I want to reach out to them and have them deal with issues immediately. I also want to get the Marsh Committee developed as soon as possible. Me and Lyle can work on that with housing too. We have a lot of housing issues. We need that committee started as soon as possible. There's people that are waiting for material. There's people that are in need of help right now. So if we can get those two committees going as soon as possible, I think the better. Our community is sitting there waiting for us, and we have to serve them. You know, it's a long time. We've been waiting. You know, there's the house fires, the mold issues, the carpenter abandonment, and going on to other jobs. The material going skyrocket. There's all kinds of ways we can mend our community. So I would like to make a motion to get those in the works as soon as possible. Do I have a second?
So we're, okay. James is going to
That for tomorrow.
Yeah, for those who want it, yeah.
Okay, so how quickly can we have these with the terms of reference and then we can get going on this?
Not tomorrow, but probably by the next meeting, and we can get going and we can assign staff person over the coming week so that you can get started at the meeting and get oriented.
So, okay, so if we approve this in a draft or approve for, how do we do that?
Well, so we need some changes if Lee, if you're not happy on 5. It sounds like 2 is gonna work.
Yeah.
Cody and line. And then the rest needs some improvements. Somebody willing to go to another. Anyone wants to?
There's 2 veterans on number 3
And number
and
6.
number 6. Certain veterans.
Well,
I'm just looking at, and I've been here a while, so I'm just looking at, say, number 4, social services, that's a huge,
yep,
take over, you've got a couple of houses on there. They're both
New.
New, yeah, I think they need someone with some past experience on there.
Is anyone willing to move to that one?
I wasn't.
When I got my choice, that was my first choice, was number 4.
I think we should probably hammer it out tonight as best we can. It's
Sure.
not written in stone, so if things, develop and we want to change,
we can launch it on an interim
we can
basis.
do that, yeah.
Elaine and Tyler, are you willing to move? Are you okay if I sort of facilitate this?
Sure, go ahead.
Are you willing to move or are you?
Well,
Some horse trading.
I mean, I can speak. Or go.
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, are we keeping it at 2 or are we going?
No, well, let's try to keep it at 2.
We always want an alternate, so the second one alternate, but these are only for council members, it isn't including the community members.
Correct.
So once it changes, then one of them will be attending meeting, the other one will be alternate.
I think it was envisioned more as a mentorship.
Yeah, I think they will both continue to meet with the committees at the committee level when the community members are on board. That's how you're going to get the experience with the junior members.
Tyler, is there another committee you'd consider joining?
Well, I was thinking, because I know
5 or 6.
I like to be part of like education and stuff.
Mhm.
Education
got a
makes sense, yeah.
But I know Lee wants to be part of recreation. And that's, of course, a strong point too. Can what's within it be shuffled? I know you guys do a lot of work, but
So do something like move.
Rather than do that, why don't we just add a senior member to that group?
Yeah.
3. You'd have
'Cause
Elaine,
two and
Elaine,
four
Tyler,
are pretty
and
heavy.
one of the senior members of the previous council could
they're all heavy.
participate on that.
So it'd
like
be,
social services and education, that's health.
yeah, well, I mean, so between Keenan, Burton, Eva and Valerie, does anybody want to step into number 4?
Valerie, she's not here.
Valerie.
Okay with you, Val?
What? Okay, so I think Eva's volunteer.
Eva will?
And that was because of the social services, I've been involved with social services.
Yep.
And I was on youth and recreation before. Have a health, related career, and then the education piece, that was a whole new area, but I
Youth and recreation up there with the marsh and all that. I can go up there.
Okay, let's do that. We'll move youth and recreation up to number 2. That responsibility?
So there would be 3 and 2 and 3 and 4. Like, 3
Yeah.
members
Yep.
and those 2.
Yeah.
Exact same.
I think that's pretty good because like I said, they're pretty,
Heavy.
and they're broad.
Yes.
Okay, and Lee, you're okay to stay on Homeland Security, so you have 2 of them?
No, we would go.
Oh,
I go up to number 2 when you use the recreation.
okay. Cody, would you move to Homeland Security?
I'm pretty comfortable dealing with the housing. I'm a
No, we're saying,
carpenter and I want to fix that place up.
But you-
All 3 of us.
Yeah, like,
I
can you,
thought those were
like,
3.
Well, we could move Valerie to number 5 as well and give her 2 responsibilities.
Well, we want to keep a senior at number 3, so let's leave it there.
so then, what about,
Okay,
Mm.
because then is
Keenan or Burton willing to move to administrative operations?
You serious?
I think Burton's good there.
More patient with me in that one.
No,
I think with the sovereignty bill.
Yes, he's good at
I-
that.
I can do double duty if. you-
yeah, do double duty, but I prefer Burton on intergovernmental affairs.
Okay. So Burton's gonna be the senior for administrative operations.
I thought I was.
Marcia is.
Oh, okay. So you were on council.
Yeah,
Oh,
50 years
I
ago.
thought so.
Okay, let's wrap this up there, James. Go down to the list again and,
So we don't need, so Bert, you're good. So number 1 is Marcia and Brianne. Number 2 is Lyle, Cody, and Lee.
yeah,
Mhm.
Number 3 is Valerie and Eva.
Oh,
Number
Neva's on too.
4 is Neva, Elaine, and Tyler.
Yep.
Number 5 is Ron and Lee.
But use and recreation is being moved up to number 2, right?
use
Yeah.
goes to 2. Yep.
And number 6 is
But we'll still over, yeah.
Burton and Keenan. Well, Keenan. Well,
I
Well-
thought I was staying in 6.
yeah.
you are.
So it's me and Keenan.
Yeah,
But remember, youth and recreation is moving to number 2,
that's correct, yeah.
correct?
Okay, if we have some type of agreement around this proposition, can I have a mover and seconder to that effect so we can get the committees launched here? Moved by Keenan, second by Neva. All those in favor? Carried. Those are the committees. You can start meeting anytime.
Evenings preferred.
Make your work
I'm
plans.
good.
So when we, Chief, just for clarification, when we, plan our meetings request, do we go through Alicia?
Yep, you'll have to request a place, yeah, to meet, yeah. Time and place. Coordination will be through either Alicia or James.
Chief,
Marcia,
I just make a suggestion that we have a contact person, a go-to person, like for my administrative operations. Who do I have to get their schedule
Yep.
for meetings? Can we have a
We're
con?
gonna assign 1 administrative person and
Oh.
one manager for each.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
and we'll let the departments carry the burden for the minute taking. Yeah. Okay. Can we move on? Agreed. Okay, moving on to the chief's report, a number of items. We dealt with the first one dealing with the committees. We had an initial discussion with M&R and fishing negotiations, or an outline or a proposed framework for fishing negotiations. What I'm going to be looking for is a couple of members to assist me with from the council table, to assist me with those negotiations. Keenan, Lee? Very good. That'll be, for the record then, that'll be a negotiations, commercial fishing negotiation task force then, for that particular one. Update, I guess, in terms of Kim Fullerton, we have some bad news on that, and I'll let James expand on that to a certain extent, and he got the news before I did.
Okay, so I received a letter from Tim Fullerton last Wednesday.
Oh, hang on. Oh, you want to go on camera on this one? Or is it,
I don't think we need to,
no, okay, very good.
but if you need to discuss any specific advice from it, we may need to, but
Let's go on camera. Motion to go on camera to discuss legal advice. Moved by Lee, seconder please. Second by Ron. All those in favor? We are in camera. Turn it off this time. Okay.
okay, so I received a letter by email on Wednesday from Kim Fullerton